most important components of presenting a great speech in my class is making sure that you've got great nonverbal delivery. And there's a component in each one of the evaluations for each one of the speeches in my class that deals with delivery. And there are about 10 or 12 different factors that we're going to discuss. The first of which is posture. You want to make sure that you're not slouched over like that and that you've got your shoulders all the way back, that your head is slightly lifted up, that your chin is nice and up and not down, looking down like that. That's going to help you project from your diaphragm all the way to the back of the room, and it should help you deal more effectively with any public speaking in which you find yourself. Next, we're going to talk about hand gestures. There are a number of different hand gestures that you can use, some of which are pretty universal and apply in almost every global or international context, one of which is the cost-benefit analysis, victory kind of, deal like that. Come here, is usually pretty universal. There are a number of them, however, that you want to avoid in international circumstances. We're not going to go into too much detail about those. You can, if you want some interesting Google searching one evening, do differences in hand gestures in international, and it'll return some really interesting results. But you should try to think of your hand gestures as something that's going to augment your speech and that it's going to, we call them accentuate your delivery. In other words, it's going to reinforce what it is that you're trying to say. So if you're saying, for instance, something like, today we're going to discuss 3 main areas of analysis, then shoot us a 3. Today I'm going to talk about my second main point, then shoot us a 2. All of those things will benefit your delivery, and it will aid to kind of reinforcing whatever point it is that you're trying to make. The next thing that we're going to talk about are facial expressions. And I have a graphic that I'll insert into the speech a little bit later, and it's the graphic that I found of this lady. This lady does a different combination of facial expressions and hand gestures. There's this, which, turned up nose always, indicates arrogance or, being conceited. There's, this, which, signifies, that something is really good and that she liked it, that it was perfect, it was right on point. There's the high, kind of peace sign. There's the, this is also disgusting, but maybe even possibly a little smelly. There's, oh, you warmed my heart. There's the, I'm confused. And then there's the, kind of pensive, I'm sort of, hoping that you'll look at me and pay attention to me and flatter me. So those are good examples of how you can integrate different facial expressions. You should think about how you're going to non-verbally pantomime out whatever text it is that you're presenting to the audience verbally. So think about ways that you can augment what you're saying or reinforce what you're saying, reinforce that verbal message with facial expressions. And of course, other than that, the thing that I always recommend that my speakers do is smile. Audiences love smiles. I don't care how hardened a listener you are or how little you care about a public speaker. There's something that's infectious about a smile, even if it's a fake smile. That fake smile, people will return that fake smile to you. And once you look out at the audience and see that they're all smiling at you, that's going to decrease your communication apprehension, and it's going to help you with any feelings of anxiety that you might be experiencing. Next is appearance. I could have very easily talked to you today in ratted out jeans, a pair of shorts, a t-shirt. It is for the most part casual Friday up here at osu-okc. So I could have discussed this content with you in any number of states of dress. I chose to put on a blazer, and I chose to try to look good for the presentation of this material. You'll want to make sure that you dress up for your speeches as well. You don't necessarily have to dress up. I'm not going to evaluate you on whether or not you wore a tuxedo to class or not. But a good general rule of thumb is you always want to try to be just a little bit more dressed up than your typical audience member. The only criteria that you'll be evaluated on in this class is whether or not you're wearing a hat or not. Baseball caps are inappropriate for public speeches. If you do want to class, I will ask you to turn the bill of the cap around so that I can see your eyes and make eye contact with you. So please refrain from wearing baseball caps. Other than that, when you get out of this class, you're going to want to be a little bit more dressed up than your audience. That's a good rule of thumb. Next, we'll talk about eye contact. Eye contact is something that you want to make sure that you maintain with the various different audience members and the folks that you're speaking to. There's a good rule of thumb, and that is that if it makes you nervous to make actual eye contact with a person in the audience, you might want to avoid making eye contact with that particular audience member. find the friendly faces in the class. There are going to be people who are your friends, who are rooting for you, that you have a natural connection with, that you have some chemistry with. Those are the faces that you ought to focus on. Don't focus on the face that's sitting there, just upset to be there with their arms folded, kind of doing that. That immediately is going to neg you out as the public speaker. So make sure that you find those smiling faces, the faces that look friendly, and focus in on them. It may make you nervous to make eye contact with anyone, and if it does, then a good rule of thumb is to always focus on the spot right here in the middle of their forehead, just immediately below their hairline. There's very imperceptible difference between me looking just above your head and me looking you right in the eye. Me looking just above your head and me looking you right in the eye. From a distance, it's really completely imperceptible. And unless I kind of move back and forth like that right now, you couldn't even tell the difference. You can make different eye contact patterns. One of the ones that I like to use is kind of a letter, and I'll just make sort of a Z or an N or something like that with the audience, and that makes sure that I'm making eye contact with each of the different individuals that are seated there in the audience. Next, let's talk about energy. You want to have a high energy level whenever you're delivering your presentation. If you're lethargic and you don't really want to be there and you're not excited about it and you're slouching and you don't convey confidence, then no one else is going to be excited about your delivery either. So if you come in and you have a lot of energy and you're really excited to be there, and that shows up in your delivery and it shows up in how you intonate your words and how you pronounce things, and it also shows up in the amount of charisma and energy that you're able to muster for that particular speech, then your audience is also going to be excited about your presentation. But once again, if you're lethargic and you have a low energy level, then they're probably not going to be excited about your presentation. I always say that if you're not excited about it, no one else is going to be. Next is extemporaneousness, and extemporaneousness has to deal with whether or not you are reading from a transcript or whether or not you're allowing the moment to kind of dictate what it is that you're saying. And if you're reading from a transcript, then you're probably not making very good eye contact, you probably don't have very good posture, you're not making a connection with your audience, and you tend to be more monotone than you typically would be if you were to maintain eye contact and let the moment kind of dictate how you are delivering that material. So that's what extemporaneous means, and in Latin it literally means from limited notes. Next is movement, and you want to make sure that you move around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move this away, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. When you make that movement, you want to make sure that you maintain good eye contact with your audience members, and that good eye contact that you maintain whenever you're making that transition is something that you continue to kind of establish after you get to where you want to be. Always keep your shoulders parallel to the audience members. It's a really bad idea to turn all the way, around like that and kind of move. And obviously, if I turn around and kind of walk over here like that, I'm failing to maintain that eye contact, and it sort of gives you the impression that I've momentarily sort of forgotten that you're there and that you're not important. So it's always a really good idea to maintain your eye contact. There's a narrated PowerPoint about specific transitions that's also included in this unit, and I'd encourage you to log on and to view that narrated PowerPoint about transitions. The next thing that we want to talk about is your vocal tone, and whether or not you're monotone or whether or not you're a dynamic public speaker. Public speakers, good public speakers, all have a nice richness in their voice, and that means that they are vocally varied. They're not just one tone. One tone would just basically be, something that was, kind of one specific pitch. So I'll try to give you a little bit of speech that is just one tone. If I were to speak in a monotone voice, it would sound very much like this, and there would not be very much vocal richness in what I was saying, as opposed to how I normally present, which is a little bit more sing-songy.